Today on the podcast, Consul General Andrea Sasse. She was in Nairobi in Washington, D.C., and now she is in Los Angeles representing Germany out here. We're talking about business, we're talking about how to make it in Los Angeles, and about the Olympics 2028. Let's go.
New Trend Society, the BDX marketing podcast with Benjamin Dietering.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the New Trend Society podcast. Today we have here Andrea Sasse, and we are at a very special place. We're at the German Consulate in Los Angeles. She is General Consul of the German Republic in Los Angeles. What this is all about and what are you guys doing here? That's what we want to find out today. So thank you very much for having us out here.
Thanks for having me on your show, Benji.
Can you tell a little bit what is the German consulate? What is the embassy? What is your job? It's super interesting and it always fascinated me. But I think it's something mystic about it, and somehow it's very, very interesting.
So let me demystify it.
Oh yes, please.
A little bit. As you know, we have an embassy in the U.S. and that embassy is based in Washington. Washington is the capital of the U.S. This is always where we have our embassies abroad. And in addition to the embassy, we have 8 consulates general in the US in 8 different cities. One of them is Los Angeles. I'm heading our consulate general over here in LA, and we cover Southern California as well as Arizona, Nevada, Utah, and Colorado.
So basically most of the western part of the United States, and it's such a big country, so there's most of the time not that many consulates if you're like in another country, or is it like sometimes like 5, 6
well, like
consulates?
it's just like you said, basically the US is a huge country with a lot of inhabitants, with a lot of people in it, and with a lot of centers for business, relevant places for Germans. This is the reason why we have so many consulates over here. It's not like that in every country, obviously, but here in the US, it's very well justified.
Okay, nice. I want to talk to you today about also about your journey and how you got here, how you ended up on the West Coast in Los Angeles, and it was quite a trip. You started studying law back in Germany, but you always had a passion for. You always wanted to be a diplomat, right?
Yeah, actually, that's true.
How does a little girl come up with a dream? I want to be a diplomat.
I actually didn't know as a girl. I didn't know what it was actually to be a diplomat. I grew up in a little town in Germany, not far from Cologne and Düsseldorf.
In Wuppertal?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Wow, you're prepared. well, very well.
It's the only German monorail, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
World famous.
Yeah. I've been there once. It was we actually went on a trip, like just drove through the city, and I'm a big fan of like everything that's with technique and gear and stuff. So we drove through there, and everybody who was sitting in the car was like, whatever, and I was like, oh, there's a monorail, and everybody was like, what?
Yeah. It's actually the only monorail in the world that uses this technique, and it's been there since 1900.
Wow,
so
that's a long time.
It's amazing, yeah.
So you grew up in that small city, and from then?
I have a brother, and my parents took my brother and me on several trips when we had our joint vacations. We often went to the US, we went to France, Spain, other countries in the world, and I always enjoyed that, as did my brother, I think. So I decided that I liked it so much that I wanted to have something to do with international relations, living abroad, getting the chance to kind of live in different cultures for some time. And I didn't know what a diplomat was. We had some people coming in when I was studying. They explained us a lot about the foreign service. I liked that, but that was already when I had started my studies in Germany back then. So actually, I just knew when I left school, I just knew that I wanted to do something that has had some ties with international relations. And I checked what the options were, and one of the options at the time was to study law in combination with the law of several foreign countries. That was a course of study that the University of Passau offered. So you had your basic classes, the regular classes in German law, but in addition, you got like some sort of extra education in in laws of a country that you were able to choose. And I chose English law, well, American as well as British law, French law, and I also picked up Spanish law.
Oh,
and
wow.
I learned the languages. Well, I continued studying the languages too, and got some extra classes in Spanish. So that kind of gave me an extra push for my German law studies, because I was not one of the best students in the German law, so it didn't come very easy to me. So the languages and the international part was actually the stuff that pushed me.
Okay, but it's so interesting to see. I mean, from a German perspective, or whichever country you're from, you are always thinking in terms of like your law, and it's so interesting that there are like different interpretations, and the whole stuff that's going on here in the US with the jury system. I think it's very, very different to Germany, and like how a lot of things are seen by the government, by the people who make the laws and all that. Was there one thing that impressed you the most, or what was very surprising for you when you're studying like any of these different law systems?
Actually, so it's like you said, it's totally different systems of law. In America, in the UK, you have a case law system, whereas in most countries in mainland Europe, continental Europe, you have like a system based on codified laws. Germany has codes that the law is based on, as does France and Spain. So I'd say the legal regulations in Germany and in France and in Spain are kind of similar to each other. Whereas in the UK and in the US, it's very different, because you need to know the cases and you need to know the case law. Of course, there's some codified laws too, but that is rather an exception.
And how did you end up in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs?
So I studied law. I took the special education in English law, in French and in Spanish law. And then, well, I started off as a lawyer, basically, because that is, you want to have a job after your studies. So this was a job that I got. I enjoyed it. I worked a lot on trademarks and contracts, and gained a lot of insights, and got a lot of expertise also in various fields of law. But I never gave up on the dream to work in the international field. There's always an option, of course, to work for big law firms. But I felt like my passion was really to represent my country, give it the best that I can, and basically do that for a mission abroad, like an embassy or the Foreign Service in Berlin.
This is very interesting. And can you tell us what does a German consul or general consul actually does?
It's actually a pretty cool job.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're sitting here in LA in Beverly Hills in a pretty cool office with a nice view. It seems like pretty high secured, and you're having a couple of calls every day here.
I wish that was the case. I actually returned from Arizona just last week.
Okay.
This is why we couldn't do the podcast last week. That was originally the plan. But I had to go to Arizona because Arizona is in our consular district, and it is a battleground state, a swing state, which is very relevant for the elections. And it's very important for us to not only read the news and read reports or make some calls, like you said, but to get like a first-hand impression on the ground on what the situation is like, what people think, and have like a clear picture for our government.
And so how does a day in Arizona look like for you? You talk to some people from different parties and talk to local politicians, or how does it look like?
That's definitely part of it. But, well, first of all, we organized the trip ourselves. So it was me and another colleague who went. And we organized the flights, the hotels. We organized every single meeting. And then we had 3 full days of meetings, like really back-to-back meetings. We started.
Who are the meetings with typically?
We started off at the border to Mexico because the topic of the issue of illegal immigration is such a big one, and because we're discussing that very often in Germany too as an issue. So it was we felt that it was very important that we get a first-hand impression of what's the situation like at the border, how are people cooperating, if the situation is similar to like it was basically in Germany back in the 80s, for example, or maybe it's to check if it's similar to like North Korea and South Korea, for example. But none of this is the case. Actually, it's a very unique, very special situation that you get at the southern border between the U.S. and Mexico, and in particular. The situation between Arizona and Mexico is a very unique one. It's not, you can't compare it to the situation in Texas, for example, or in California. Very different because in the Nogales region, actually, Americans and Mexicans are cooperating very closely because there's a lot of business ties. There's a lot of products going back and forth.
A lot of trade going on?
Yes, a lot of trade going on. So that's one aspect which has to be taken into account. Then, of course, you got the aspect of illegal immigration and legal immigration, which also kind of factors in. And we talked to a lot of people at the border. We talked, for example, to the mayor of the city. We talked to business representatives, people that have their own business in the area, their own produce warehouse, fresh produce warehouse, people from Customs and Border Protection, Border Patrol. So to get like a really broad picture, of course, some officials, other officials too, like the American Consul General, who is based actually on the Mexican side of the border, and the Mexican Consul General, who is based in the same city on the U.S. side of the border. So really, our goal was to get a broad view on things.
And if you're talking to companies, corporations, businesses, if you want to set up an appointment and the German state, the German country, or how do I say it, like the Germany, when Germany
or German government,
when German government calls, you usually get an appointment with everyone.
Well, actually, Germany does have a very good reputation in the U.S. over here, but also in everywhere else in the world, of course. In Arizona and in my consular district, we can also build on a network that I've worked on together with my colleagues that I've worked on for about a year now, since I arrived, basically. So I've been to Arizona already 4 times or 5 times even, met a lot of people, build relations, build a network, and I kind of course, for coming to Arizona, I always contact the people that I know in Arizona, and they help me getting the right appointments, and they support me also because they like cooperating with us, and they see that we are really genuinely interested in their view on things and in getting things moving forward.
So they get a lot of intelligence, and what do you do with that? Like you reported to Frank-Walter Steinmeier, who is here on a picture right across of us, or like what do you do with this information?
So I like definitely
a broad view of the whole things, right?
So
but basically, it's information.
First step is always like I discuss with our team here. I discuss with the colleague, in this case, the head of our legal section, who was with me on the trip, and the honorary consul. We have an honorary consul on the ground too. So I discussed with them every day, like what the essentials of the meeting were, what the key elements were, the main takeaways, basically, and then of course upon return. We report, first of all, to the embassy in Washington, our colleagues, the ambassador, as well as the colleagues in the political department and in the business department. But we also report back to headquarters in Berlin and back to the other ministries in Berlin that are relevant. Like business, for example, you always need to talk to the Ministry of Economics. If there's infrastructure and transport issues involved, you talk to another ministry. So we always we are representatives of all German ministries, basically, not only the Foreign Service. So it's important that we transmit all the information that we get to all the relevant people, and then kind of strengthen Germany's footprint on the ground. That's the goal, right?
How do you do that?
Well, you listen carefully to the people that you talk to. You figure out what Germany's reputation is, where we might have some expertise that we could bring in, where we could learn from others, and then you try to connect the dots basically, and either bring in German investment or kind of convince Arizonan companies or Arizonan representatives to invest in Germany.
Okay. So let's say German company wants to invest in Arizona, you can also connect the dots and make intros and all stuff like that.
Of course, that would be the follow up to such a trip. You, of course, first of all, you thank everyone that you met, and then you make introductions, and connect people, and try to basically initiate deals or other relevant contacts. Like in this case, for example, there's a lot of interest between representatives of the state of Sachsen-Anhalt to cooperate with Arizona because
Intel,
yeah, yep. Exactly, because of Intel. Intel already has a huge plant that they established in Arizona a couple of years ago, and we can actually learn from their example. We want investment by Intel too in Magdeburg, so it's important for us that we kind of check what did Arizona do to attract this business by Intel? How did they prepare the ground, basically? What can we do, and what would make it easier for Intel to invest in Germany?
Okay, so let's say when it comes to intros, I also do in my business, I do a lot of networking and bring a lot of people together. Also with New Trend Society, we host events, and I love to bring people together, right? But everybody is very busy, and sometimes you have to catch the people at the right position to make the right intro to the right person at the right time, right? Do you have a secret how an intro will be successful, that actually good business or good relations are established by that?
I'd say you got to be visible, first of all. People have to know you. You have to demonstrate that being in touch with you gives them some sort of benefit.
That's very big with the Americans, right?
Yes.
They always want to know their benefits.
Yeah. Well, time is limited, so you want to know why you have to attend a meeting, why you should be why you should be in touch with someone,
and why it's beneficial to both of us or to all the participants, right?
Exactly.
What is the thing that the Americans really value about Germany in particular, or like about doing business with Germans?
Well, we still have a reputation that kind of precedes us, thankfully, which we built over decades, basically. And that reputation, I would say, even now, even with the negative reporting that you sometimes see about Germany's reputation abroad, it's still very much focused, for example, on the quality of our workforce, the quality of training in Germany. That's very crucial. If you talk to let me give you an example from LA. If you talk to the film industry, basically, for example, they tell you, well, in Germany you have a lot of skilled labor, a lot of skilled workforce that know, for example, how to deal with cameras, how to correctly hold cameras, how to correctly film, shoot movies, shoot shows on TV for TV. You have people that know how to, just like your colleague did, how to set up like audio equipment, use audio equipment properly. That is not a given. So you in Germany you get training for that, as you do in other countries. But it's just that Germany's reputation in this regard, skilled labor, skilled workforce, is still huge. That's one of the reasons why in all of my meetings that I have, be it in Arizona or Nevada or Colorado or Utah, everyone is very, very interested in having some sort of German expertise in that field, getting some German expertise, meeting people from Germany, meeting business people, meeting educators, teachers that sort of know what they're talking about when they talk about training and education. Yeah,
what you said, I totally agree on that. So as we started hiring here in the US, so we came over with my company BDX like 2 years ago and started hiring the first people. And when we put up the job applications, you get like tons of applications, but only a few % are actually skilled, as good as we need them, right? And in our German team, we have a lot of, like, I call them always like one-man armies, kind of like Jackie here, who's running all the cameras, who can do video, photo, edit. He knows a little bit about light, a little bit about podcasts, about audio and all that. And what I found out here, everybody has their niche, but that's very narrow. And somebody is maybe very good in just sound or so, but not that many people know all of it and are also not that interested in it. So when we started first in hiring freelancers, there were some freelancers who said, yeah, I do edit, but I don't do that. I can't do that. And I was like, but I pay you guys for this. And he was like, yeah, no, that's not, you have to hire somebody else. And it's like very interesting. And in Germany, people are most of the time like, yeah, we find a way, we figure it out. If I don't know it, I will get it, I will learn it somehow. It was very interesting to me.
It is.
Yeah. So let's talk more about the visibility of Germany in other states or in other countries in general. Would you say, or would you agree, you guys also do a little bit of marketing for Germany?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So this is one of the reasons why we very much enjoyed doing the podcast with you today.
Nice.
Yes, we are sort of ambassadors for Germany, all of us. Despite the term ambassador being reserved, of course, for our ambassador in Washington and in other capitals in the world. But we are ambassadors of our country. We market. We represent. We do not only represent Germany, but we try to represent Germany in the best light. We try to connect people in all the fields. So it's a very broad background that you need to have. And that is kind of very fascinating and interesting to me.
I think on my observation, Germany is always pretty decent and calm and very humble, right? And there are other countries that are pretty broad and bright in marketing themselves, especially if it comes to I don't know, like the Middle East, like United Emirates, Arab Emirates, or Saudi Arabia or so, who are like actually doing a lot of also sponsorship and getting stuff done. Would that also be an option or a way for Germany to promote Germany even more?
I think, first of all, it's always up to a country to decide for itself and for the people of the country to decide what they want their country to look like, even abroad. I think like you said, we are definitely, in some regards, a little bit too hesitant, maybe too humble. So maybe just looking at the United States, for example, we can use the US as an example of how to improve on that front. But I wouldn't say that we definitely need to change our course altogether, because there are some benefits that we have that kind of are different from other states, other countries. So if we always try to compare ourselves with other countries, we might lose our original strengths too. So I would say let's focus on the strength that we have, and also sort of continue improving on the at least perceived deficits that we have. It's not necessarily deficits. Sometimes it's better to be a little hesitant and think things through, for example, than being too upfront with views and opinions. But in other cases, of course, you need to be fast and less bureaucratic. And this is something we can definitely learn over here, especially in California. Actually, California is so driven. People in California are so driven. There's such a great innovative spirit, such a moving forward spirit that it's very hard not to be thrilled by it and
not to be infected, right?
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
So as a consul general, you typically move around every 3 years or so. And a couple of weeks ago, I was in New York meeting a friend, and he told me his dad was also consul general, and somewhere in Africa, and then in Sydney and in Cyprus and so on. And he was kind of like a diplomatic child, like growing up all over the world. And there were definitely pros and cons. But what? Why are you so bullish about that? Why do you love that? Like moving around every couple of years. Isn't it nice to stay in LA forever?
Well, first of all, I know that this lifestyle is not for everyone. Whether it's in LA or in Berlin or in any other part of the world, you need to be made for it. I can say for myself that I love it. I love it here in the US. I have loved it in other places.
So you've been in Kenya, Nairobi, and Germany, and then Washington D.C., and then here, right? That's
back to Germany for another position, and then to LA. Yes. I love this lifestyle. I think but I'm also very interested in learning new stuff all the time, in continuing to develop, continuing to explore new stuff, stuff that I don't know about. And I believe, like you said, basically LA is a place that you need to love, because it might be a huge city
Oh, yeah?
with a lot of traffic, but it's also a place where you can explore tons of things that you've never been in touch with. Like if you just look at the business sectors over here, they range from defense industry to AI to transport infrastructure to hydrogen and other sectors. So it's very, just for me, it's very, very fascinating to learn about all this stuff. I haven't been in touch with that before, so now I am.
And were you able to choose LA? I heard there are like some stories that consuls get chosen, or they get sent to more favorable or non-favorable places. Is that true? Like if you behave well, then you go to LA. If not, you have to go to a less nice country.
I would prefer to leave those secrets to the human resources department at headquarters. But I can tell you that I was very happy to be posted to LA. I wanted to come to LA, so I'm one of those people that are happy with the posting, and very much so, I have to say. I'm also lucky.
Nice. What do you want to do here within the? I think your term is like 3 years, right? Or
it's actually 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
And we have the Olympic Games in 28, so
that makes sense. That makes sense.
There might be an opportunity, opening for one more year, but that's to be seen.
Okay, so what is your plan for the next couple of years? If we look into this podcast episodes 3 years from now, what do you want to achieve until then?
So I wouldn't say I have specific goals. My goal is, first of all, to when I took over last year, I know that the first step is always to build a team. You are only always so good as the support of your team is. So you need to build a really strong team. I focused very much on that since taking over. I'm still focused very much on that. So building a team, building a real strong consulate over here, I think that's one of the keys. That's definitely one of my goals. I also, that's a prerequisite, of course. I focus very much on building networks, not only here in the LA, Southern California area, but also in all the other states that we cover. So focus on the networks, because that's basically a currency in the US, to have contacts in all the right places.
Your network makes your net worth. That's what they say.
That's true. True. That's sort of true. So I focus very much on that. And now, while continuing on the goals that I've just mentioned, I think the focus will shift more towards reaching certain precise goals. Like, for example, I mentioned LA 28. There will be a lot of contracts that are going to be given to companies in the context of the Olympic Games at 28. So my goal will be to have as many German companies benefit from that. So position German companies, not governments, companies in the right place, support them so that they get some of the contracts.
And I mean,
it's 120,000 contracts that will be awarded.
Wow,
just for the Olympic Games.
I mean, Los Angeles has a pretty successful history with Olympic Games. In 1984, I think it was the first ever profitable games. I think before that was Montreal or so, something in Canada, and I just read they still paying off the debt from the money they lost there, and LA was able to make $200 million in profit from Olympic Games. I think that's very fascinating, and it speaks for the business sense in the US and in LA, as it were the first Olympic Games where it was allowed to bring in also private sponsors and companies and all that. You do your part to bring in German companies in that. What else can you do to help German businesses thrive here in the US?
Like bring delegations to Germany from the different states, US states that we cover from here, but also from different towns. Like in September, for example, we were approached by Lacey. I'm not sure if you know Lacey, LA Clean Tech Incubator.
Okay.
They set up a delegation focused on clean tech and electrification of transport. A delegation that was comprised of politicians, business people, various other individuals, and they told me, okay, we're going to Europe, we're going to visit London, we're going to visit Oslo, and we're going to go to Munich. Can you help us get the right meetings in Munich? And as you can imagine, electrification of transport, of course, is fully fits the policy of our government. So we got in touch with government entities, we got in touch with local entities in Bavaria, and we tried to facilitate basically a nice program, and they got some really good impressions, I think, of what our companies are capable of and how professional they also set everything up.
Okay, nice. I mean, they can visit Lilium if they are still around then. So
good idea.
Okay, that's interesting. I have another question about German interests. So, what are actually the German interests for the German government? We talked about intelligence or more
information.
Information, yeah.
Yeah.
More intelligence is more like Secret Service stuff, right?
Yeah.
So information, get an objective view about stuff, not only from the press. That's one part. Then the other part is positioning German businesses in the US. Is there anything else where you guys want to take a little bit of influence or so?
Yeah, so apart from, let's leave the business sector aside for a moment. If you just look at the US map that I have in my office right here, you notice right away that it's a huge country. So it doesn't really help if you just have contacts, good networks on the East Coast in the capital of Washington only. It's more relevant to have contacts basically, and know people on the subnational level. So in every relevant city, to know the mayor, for example, to know parliamentarians, to know the state representatives, all of that, that's what we call the subnational level. Mm-hmm. That is the level below the federal level, of course. Contacts on the subnational level basically include contacts from the business sector, contacts from the cultural field, contacts from politics, anything basically. So, and the goal of all of that is basically to strengthen transatlantic ties, and it should be the relationship between the US and Germany should always be strong, no matter, for example, what the political situation is like.
We already talked about the map you have in your office right behind your desk. I think it's very nice to have this, especially as you're attending a lot of video calls probably, and it's always nice to have a good background there. Do you have visited every single state in the United States? Is that right?
That's right.
How long did that take you?
So it took me a while to answer your question. But I actually enjoy traveling very much, and I like road trips very much because I think that's a very unique way to explore every single state in the US, and you get like a real good impression of distances.
Oh yeah.
And also you talk to a lot of very, very different people. Mm-hmm. If you go to a gas station, if you're spend an evening in a bar, it's always different people you talk to, and you get a lot of really interesting insights and stories. Actually, you hear a lot of stories, and I started. As you mentioned, one of my previous postings was in Washington D.C. I always took the car. I had friends visiting me a couple of times during my 3 years turn there, and we always took the car and took some road trips. And actually, at some point, I always looked at the map and thought, like, which place haven't I gone to so far?
Yeah.
So,
where do I need to know the mayor?
Yeah. It's always like sort of inspiration.
Yep.
If you look at the map and you think like, what do I know about Amarillo, Texas? I have never been. I'm just looking at the map now. I'm realizing I need to do a lot of traveling in Texas. I've been to Texas, but just on a little road trip and a little weekend getaway, basically. So
it's amazing. Have you been to Austin?
yes, Austin,
Yeah.
San Antonio, Houston, and I've also done some training there. So I've gotten some insights, but not enough. It's a huge state.
I always say Leipzig is the German Austin. It's my hometown,
Yeah.
and around Leipzig, I would say it's pretty conservative, and the city itself is very vibrant and liberal, and a lot of culture, so green. So, guys, if you're listening to the podcast right now, check out Austin. Highly recommend going there.
And also, please check out Leipzig. You don't know that, Benji, but our honorary consul in Las Vegas, Ryan Lauer, who's representing Germany in Las Vegas and who works with us closely here in the Consul General, he's served some time in Leipzig, and I think he lived with a family, and he's still thrilled about his time and about the time he spent in Leipzig.
Okay, so. Nice. Yeah, he's. You guys invited any time to come over there. We have great relationships there, great network, and I totally get what you're talking about here when it comes to network. Network is. I think that's the thing that people often get wrong. They think network is just who I'm following on LinkedIn or on Instagram or whatever. It's also. It's not just who do you know, it's also who knows you and who picks up the phone if you need them, right? If you have any questions, if you need any input, any intro, or who will share their room with you when it comes down to any stuff. So that's cool. Tell him he's invited. We actually do a small conference in Leipzig in November, TrendCon. So if, for all our listeners, please check it out. It's a marketing conference and content conference for trends for 2025. And maybe we are generous here today on the pod. let me check it out. So we have some tickets left. And with the discount code FL100, F and L in capital letters, FL100, you get 100 euros off the price. That's pretty good, huh?
Foxtrot Lima.
Foxtrot Lima, yes.
I've learned the
NATO alphabet.
Yeah, you always have to spell your name when you book hotels. So I've come to realize that it's better to know the alphabet.
Sasse, yeah, okay. Is it actually with SZ or is it always with SS?
No, with SS, double S.
Okay, nice. So we were talking about all the different states in the United States. Was there any? What would you say is the most underrated state?
Well, that's really hard to say because I am
on a personal level, not on a professional level.
Well, yeah. I actually, to be very honest, to start from the positive side, in every state I've been to, I've met interesting people. I liked every state that I've been to, and I thought that every single U.S. state has something very unique and special to it. So every single state is definitely worth visiting, worth going. I thought basically, to get back to your question about underrated, I would say that South Dakota is one of the most underrated states because you really need to make an effort to get there.
Yes.
It's not easy to get to Rapid City. There are, of course, flight connections, but especially if you're coming from Europe, you probably will have to stop at least once, if not twice, to get to South Dakota. The only place you will know for sure is Mount Rushmore, but you'll miss out on other places like the Badlands National Park or the Black Hills, which are featured in Dances with Wolves, the movie with Kevin Costner. Nice. So it's really really fantastic if you're there because the landscape is just beautiful and you feel like you're basically in that Kevin Costner movie because it still reminds you very much of the Indian heritage, Native American heritage, and you see bisons. You will see bisons. You will see very unique natural things like the Badlands, which are amazing, but also discover once again how huge some of the U.S. states are.
And
it takes you quite a while.
You drive for 7 hours and nothing happens, right?
Yeah, apart from you will always find a country music channel on the radio, so it's always fun just to listen to the radio, check the different stations, sing along to some songs that you keep hearing.
Yeah.
So you will almost immediately become a country
fan.
fan.
Or with a rental car?
No, rental car.
Okay, yeah. I mean, with the RV starting from here, it's even longer.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, let's talk a little bit before we come to the end more about Los Angeles and business here, and also how to make it. That's also always one of my thing. And I mean, I came here 2 years ago, and I think it's a place where you can thrive, where you can definitely build some reputation and a big business. But there's also no one waiting for you. Yeah. Can you give us some insights on your perspective on that, especially if there are maybe some German listeners or somebody else from the US who wants to move here, and maybe some small steps or some ideas to be successful here?
Well, I'm not 100% sure if I'm the right person to talk to about that, because I have the privilege that I was sent by my government. And
but still, I mean, the government sends you, but still, you have to go out. People have to recognize you. You get the meeting, but what happens in the meeting, that's the difference, right?
That's true. And also, of course, my government doesn't do the moving. So I need to organize the moving. I need to get settled here.
So there's no special expat package?
Well, you get some support, of course, also financial support to move here. But you got to organize a lot of your stuff yourself. You always get the support also by the consulate, of course, but you will have to know that you need a visa, for example, to enter the US. You will.
You also need to organize your visa yourself?
Yes.
What kind of visa do you have?
I don't know the name of it, actually.
Okay.
I think it's A1, but I'm not sure.
Maybe, yeah.
I'm not sure. Would need to
sounds like a good one. A1. It's good. It's good. I
had a J1, I think, when I studied here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, to all the listeners, I don't know all the categories of the US visa, but I have one that allows me to work here as a consul general, that's for sure. I have a passport that doesn't expire in 6 months. That is also very crucial. And you need to, of course, comply with all the rules and regulations, and you have to know them when you start your business here on the ground. And then I'd say you need to adapt as quickly as possible to the American way of life, way of dealing with things, way of making business, but also like way of being in their private lives. For example, Americans are always very, very friendly, which I very much appreciate, because it just gives you a good feeling and you're just happy when you're treated in a nice way. But when they say like, okay, let's get together for lunch, it doesn't mean like, okay, we're gonna have lunch tomorrow.
Yeah. We definitely have to do this again. It's like, I never want to see you again.
Let's do part 2.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'd be down for that. Okay. That's interesting.
So I would say come prepared. Don't expect anyone to wait for you, especially not in LA. It's definitely easier in other cities because LA is huge. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of people that do the same stuff as you. You have to make sure that people get to know you and your business and why they should trust you and no one else. So that's the key, I'd say.
That's true. I would add some more stuff. As you were like very critic on it and like very realistic, I would say. But I would also say for everyone who wants to pursue their dreams, and if you want to come to the US, if you're from Germany, definitely go for it. With the German work ethic and the standards and also the knowledge, you're very well seen here. And people, you don't even have to be the best photographer or the best videographer or whatever. You just have to be there. You have to be on time and just deliver what you promise people. That helped us a lot within the last 2 years. So as I say, I wouldn't say I'm the best photographer or whatever, but just stick to what you tell people, then you will be successful.
Yeah, and maybe to add to that, also you always have to show that you have passion and drive. and both of that takes you quite a long way, I'd say, and it usually makes a difference also, because there's a lot of people that don't have passion for their job, and when you're like totally behind it, 100%, 180%, you'll make a difference, and people will see that.
I can definitely see you have the passion for your job. That's really amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time today. I have one more question also for you as a diplomat. Do you have any special perks here as diplomat? I heard diplomats can don't get speed tickets and all that stuff. Is that true?
I actually never tried.
Okay.
If I get a speeding ticket, I usually have the feeling that in respect out of the host country that I'm in, I have to admit that I was at fault, so I don't even question it. I think that's kind of disrespectful if you live in a country and you have to comply to the rules, whether it's in the US or whether it's in China or in Kenya. So I've never tried, but I can tell you the difference is that I have a blue passport. The diplomatic passport is a blue one, and of course I have my regular passport too, which is a red one.
And you can use the fast line when you enter the country, right?
Yes, that is a perk, and it's way faster.
Yeah, that's probably the best perk you can have.
Yes. Especially at this airport.
Oh yeah. Shout out LAX. All right, Andrea, thank you very much for taking your time. I loved every minute of the episode, and would love to invite you back maybe in a year or so.
I'd love that.
To talk about the progress and how we make sure that LA 28 will be successful. And thank you also, guys, for listening to the podcast. If you want to know more about Andrea, check her out Are you on any social on Instagram?
Germany in LA.
Germany in LA. Okay, so check this out, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Benji. It was great.
Bye-bye.
Bye.